Good evening, everyone. Here with another edition of our NASCAR for Beginners series. This one's a little different. This is kind of a breaking news podcast with some of the news that came out today with the changes to the NASCAR championship format. For the past, since 2014, it's been, all these different things where it's the last race winner or highest finisher of the championship four is the champion. All these elimination races per round. So we're a little excited. I am for the change where we're going back to. It's still a playoff format, but it's called. They're going to go back to what used to be called the chase, which. Say we'll take last year, for example. So last year they had 16 drivers made the playoffs, and then they raced 3 races, and then they had an elimination. At the end of those 3 races, the bottom 4 were eliminated, and it moved all the way up. It did another 3, another 4 eliminated, another 3, another 4, and then you were left with 4 drivers. And then they raced for the championship. And so as long as you were one of the championship 4, you could win the championship. Nobody else could. Well, it's been met with some backlash and a lot of people, saying that it kind of makes the championship not really legit because you can kind of sneak your way in by just getting enough points or whatever and then win a championship. To put it as an example, this would never happen, by the way. But let's say you were a driver in the Cup Series and you won 35 races in a row, all 35 races throughout the year. And then in the last race of the season with the other 4 competitors, you had a tire issue or a blown engine on lap 1. You now didn't win the championship. So NASCAR there was a lot of fans upset about it. So without further ado, we'll jump into it. I got some notes this time. So, as you can see, the first question we're going to get into is how many drivers qualify for the chase. That hasn't changed. It will still be 16 drivers in the Cup Series. The NASCAR or O'Reilly's Auto Parts Series will have 12, and the Truck Series will have 10, which is still the same as it was last year. And I'm just going to be comparing to last year because if you start getting back further, you start getting like hybrid mixtures of all these. And so we're just going to go with last year's format versus this year's. Next, we're jumping in with how do drivers qualify for the chase? So every race is worth points, and we'll get into that in a second. And there's stages in every race, and there's points for that. And there's, so after every race, you get points and you get stage points and all that good stuff. And the top 16 in points advance to the chase. That's simple. 16, 12, and 10 based on what series you're in. For easier reference, we'll pretty much just use the Cup Series. So 16 in the top points. So you could win 2 races but have bad luck the rest of the 26 regular season races and finish 17th in points. And somebody that didn't win a race but was more consistent is now in, and you're not. So that was the second thing they went to make it to where it's not just about wins, which is the next topic. Last year, pretty much if you won a race, you were in the playoffs. So people were asking, is it win and in? Is that still a thing? No, that's out the window now. And they took it out because, yes, wins are important, but wins are so hard to come by in the NASCAR series especially. You don't have people winning, 9, 10, 11 races in a row, in these things, or even in a season. So the win and in kind of made it to where people that were more consistent were left out of the playoffs last year. This year, it's going to be more of a consistent thing. How do you run week to week? Obviously, winning get you more points. So that helps with your standings anyway. Plus, sponsors like when their cars win, and so do team owners and drivers, for that matter. The next question is, how many postseason races are there going to be? Well, last year there was 10, and this year there's 10. The difference is, like I spoke, was there's not 3 races in an elimination. Now it's just 10 races. Whoever out of those 16 drivers earns the most points in 10 races is going to be your champion. We'll get into how the points work here in a second. So there's 10 races. So pretty much if you look at the NASCAR, if you go to NASCAR.com and look at the schedule, you go to the very bottom, which will be Homestead, Miami at the end of the season in November, and go up 10, pretty much from September 6th on is playoffs. That's the chase. The regular season ends at Daytona, and the playoffs start in Darlington. Are the points different this year from previous? Yes. In each race, there's 3 stages, except for the Coca-Cola 600, which is 4 stages. We'll get into that as we get closer to the Coca-Cola 600. The points are, last year it was 40 points for a win. And then let's say you won the race and you won both stages. I know I said there's 3 stages, but the 3rd stage goes towards the race payout, not stage points. The only first and second stage get points. So if you win the race, win this first stage, and win the second stage, that's 60 points. That was the maximum point number you could get last year. So, and in stages, when the first stage break happens, everybody from 1st to 10th, it goes 10, 9, 8, all the way down to 1. Same with stage 2. So let's say you won a race last year and you finished 1st in one stage and 10th in another stage. You would get 40 points for the race win, 10 points for the stage win, and 1 point for finishing 10th in the stage. So you would get a total of 51 points for that week. This year, it's different. Winning a race is now 55 points. And then the rest of the points will stay the same. So I win the race 55 points. This guy over here finishes second. He gets 35 35. Yeah, he'll get 35. And then 34, 33 all the way down throughout the rest of the line. And then stage points, of course, things like that. So now, instead of having a 60-point max per week, you can have 75 per week. So it's going to make the point battles as the season gets closer a lot tighter for those top 16. So if you're 12th and you're 20 points ahead of 20th, those last couple races coming up are going to be pretty important for your consistency. And we'll get into why Daytona being the end is such a wild card when we get closer to Daytona to start the season. So that's your difference. You're still going to have the stage points. You're still going to have stuff like that. But there won't be a such thing as last year. There was playoff points. So last year, you win a race, you got 5 playoff points. Win a stage, you get a playoff point. So you could technically get 7 playoff points per race. Now, you don't get playoff points. It's just points, which I think is a lot easier to understand for the casual fan. So anybody out there that's watching this, that's getting new to the sport, you just pretty much have to know you don't have to worry about all these different point numbers. It's just one set of points. My driver got this many points. Not, how many playoff points did he get? No, just one set of points. So another thing, last I was talking, it was elimination rounds. There's not elimination rounds this year. They're done. It's a 10 race chase. No other way to put it. 10 race chase. Starting in Darlington all the way through Homestead, Miami. So you don't have to worry. Like last year, prime example, my driver, Josh Berry, was in the playoffs had the worst round of anybody ever in round one of the playoffs, finished last in the 3 races, and was eliminated, of course. Well, if he finishes last this year, he's not eliminated. I mean, mathematically, he's probably eliminated, but he's still in the race. So, I mean, he's still in the contention. So, you don't get eliminated, which I like a lot better. It keeps more fans, to me, engaged throughout, because when Barry went out, I mean, I'm a diehard fan, but I still watched. But it wasn't the same as watching without Josh Berry racing. I just rooted for Ryan Blaney or whoever else. But it wasn't the same as to having my driver in there. So I like the non-elimination anymore. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to get a drink. Are the points reseeded for the drivers in the chase? So it got really confusing last year when you had all this, because you had playoff points. You had drivers when they started the first round of the playoffs, drivers started with 2,000 points. And then when they started the second round, the drivers that were left started with 3,000, and then the 4,000, and then 5,000 for the championship 4. And it just got really confusing because they kept carrying their playoff points that they earned last year with them. So if I had 15 playoff points and it was the first round, instead of starting with 2,000 points, I started with 2,015 points, which was a little different too, because the regular season standings also gave you bonus points for the playoffs. And there was just too many different point structures for the casual fan to keep up with. It was, how many points does he have? How many points does he have? How many points did he earn? It was just way too much. So this is a lot more simple, which I'm grateful for. So when people want to ask, I can be able to explain it, and it makes sense. Versus last year, I can remember telling some people about it, and they were like, I don't understand this at all. So I literally had to get paper out and like draw it out. And that's to no fault of the people's asking, by the way. So then it comes down to, does the regular season champion still get an advantage? Yes. They will earn. So what's going to happen is, at the end of the season, the top 16 people will start with 2,000 points. I will say that will not change. But they're not going to, it's just going to start there. There's no adjusting for each round. There is no rounds. So what it'll look like is, at the end of the regular season, you'll have 16 drivers in the playoffs. This is what the points will be as soon as this thing leaves. There we go. First place, so the regular season champion will start with 2,100 points. He gets 25 points ahead of him, who has 10 points ahead of third, and then it's 5 points all the way down through 16. So 16 will have 2,000, and then, everybody will be spaced out. So if you're starting 16th, you're 100 points behind first place going in. So no matter what, even if you win the first race and that person finishes last, you can only make up like 73 points if you win both stages and the race. So you're still not, you would still be behind, the guys in second, the guy in third, the guy in fourth, which is good to give those people an advantage, because they did it throughout the season. They earned that. So there is still an advantage for finishing higher. Obviously, at 16th, you can still go on a run and win the title, but this at least makes it so that the better drivers normally would stick around longer, is pretty much the best way to say it. So then you go to, oops, sorry, dropped my notes. Sorry. You go to this, which I just answered a few minutes ago. Can playoff drivers earn playoff points? No. Playoff points are eliminated. You still get regular season points for winning races and stages, though, obviously. So can playoff points still be earned? No, doesn't affect anything. Just regular points now. Um, how do you determine the champion then? Last year, like I said, the top four, championship four, as we call it, those four raced. Whoever finished highest out of all four of those, no matter if you won the race or not, as long as you were the highest finisher of those four, you were the champion. This year, whoever has the most points out of those 16 after 10 races. So that's pretty much the new change. I am super excited about it. I love this. I think it's great for the sport. A lot of people want NASCAR to go back to the whole point season, 36 points. I like the 26 and the 10 playoffs. I like it. I just think it's a much better way to crown a champion. Got a couple of people in there. Post Game 86 is on here. Another one of the WTP sports dudes. He runs the Post Game 86 podcast. Good to see you in here, Post Game. Doug Jones, we'll get to your question here in just a few minutes. Let me jump over to this real quick. I know this is in there if you're looking at the comments. It says we're going to discuss the fan rewards app. We're going to skip that tonight. I discussed it. If you go back and watch NASCAR for Beginners, Part 5, you'll get a breakdown of it and how it works. We will answer more questions as we go forward with it, with fantasy and all that good stuff. But this didn't come out today. This came out, and I was just waiting for a time to fix it in. I think I mentioned it on one of the other podcasts where they were changing the horsepower. Obviously, horsepower doesn't equal miles per hour. It just means how powerful the engine is, which obviously increases speed. Last year, it was pretty much 670 horsepower on all tracks except for super speedways, which was the super speedways, which are Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta. Those have 510 horsepower. That's staying the same. And that's a safety thing because on those speedways, these cars can get to insane speeds. So we're not going to go. Maybe later on they'll increase it, but for right now we're going to stay at 510 on those three tracks. The horsepower on all ovals over 1.5 miles and above, which is the majority of tracks, by the way, is going to stay the same as last year too. 670 is the horsepower on those. Now, for all road courses, which would be Watkins Glen, Sonoma, the Charlotte Roval, Coda, and I'm assuming the San Diego Street Course, and all oval tracks shorter than 1.5 miles, which is going to be stuff like Worldwide Technology in St. Louis, Bristol Motor Speedway, Martinsville, Richmond, and I want to say Dover and North Wilkesboro. There's 5 or 6 tracks. Those are going to bump to 750 horsepower, which I'm super excited for. It's going to make it easier to pass on those tracks. That was been the biggest complaint, is that everybody was so even, which everybody's going to have 750 horsepower, but it's going to, there's just going to be, how do you have your car set up? So your car setup can have a lot to do with, hey, I can go half a mile an hour faster down this straightaway. So I'm excited to see that. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I will look into this some more, that the tracks, the short tracks with the 750 horsepower, are also going to go, I think, from a 6-inch to a 3-inch spoiler, which will reduce drag. So that's also going to help increase some speeds on those. Really, really, really excited for all of that. We got our, like I said, the fan rewards app. We're going to skip over that. I mentioned post game. So our buddy Doug popped up and asked this question. It says, why so many changes this year? When was the last time they made changes like this? They did the chase for a long time, and then we've done this format we've had for 12 years. So I guess you could say the last time they made changes like this was probably 12 years ago, 2014. And it was kind of a way to try to do something different. All sports are evolving. Everybody knows that. Baseball, football, basketball, everybody, you got in-season tournaments and baseball or basketball. Baseball's talking about doing it, which I don't know about that. You got all these different things that they're trying to do to attract newer, younger, fresher audience. And so NASCAR decided 12 years ago to go to this format where you have the elimination races, trying to think that it would kind of create, best way to put it, like a game 7 mentality, but you would have it in round 1, 2, and 3, and then round 4 would be one because that was the championship race. And the TV partners liked it when it first came out because it gave you storylines for those elimination races. Oh, this guy has to do this and da 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 da. Well, that was all fine when it first happened, but it got kind of stale. And by stale, I mean, if you go back and watch some of the races at the end of the year last year on TV, listen to the commentary. It's pretty boring. It's a lot more focused on the cut line, the elimination line versus who's winning or the battles up front. You got 2 guys up front battling for the lead, and you got, excuse me, I'm sorry. You got 2 guys battling for the lead, and the cameras are showing it for 5 seconds, and then it goes back in the field, which is fine. That's where the action's going. But now we're not talking about the guy winning the race. We're talking about the guys back there in 20th and 30th, wondering if they're going to make it up to get off the elimination line. And then you had 16 drivers in the field for the playoffs, but after 3 races, 4 were eliminated. Well, they never even got talked about. And to me, that just took a lot away from it. It's like we were more focused on the drama of the elimination than we were who's winning a race. And that's not where it needs to be. It needs to be focused on who's winning, who's running good, who had a bad qualifying effort and is in 30th position and is driving to the front, who's in the championship, who's in the chase. Talking about those kind of things versus, oh, well, look at the elimination line, and oh, it's going to change every lap because of, forget all that. We don't need to do that. It got stale. This kind of pumps a new influence into it. Like I said, I am super excited for this to go on. Hold on a second, guys. My work phone. Something going on. Anyway. So I'm super excited for the changes to the format. I've heard from, they had a press conference today. You can find it on YouTube under NASCAR on their channel. You can go watch the press conference. They had a couple of drivers. Shockingly enough, they're going to the chase. And of course, they had Chase Elliott and Chase Briscoe on the panel to discuss it. And then they had Ryan Blaney on there. So they had all 3 a driver from each manufacturer, Chevy, Toyota, and Ford, on the thing. And they talked to them, and they were all liking it. And they've talked to their teammates, and they all like it. So it seems like we're getting more, the drivers are more into it. I heard a lot of drivers say stuff that they don't have to, you won't hear drivers say, I did what I had to do. And that's something that I hated to see. I understand it. You had drivers driving into corners, just running people off the road or off the track because they had to. It was an elimination race. I had to. And you could tell they weren't happy about it. They did it. They had to. You won't hear that. They'll know that while second place isn't a great for a race car driver or any athlete, second place isn't good. If it comes down to wrecking your car and finishing second, or wrecking somebody and finishing first, and not wrecking them and finishing second, most drivers are going to err on the side of caution because, believe it or not, they do like to bump each other in NASCAR. They do like to, get a little ruffle some feathers, but they also know that what goes around comes around. So you won't see a lot of that, I don't think, anymore. I mean, you're still going to see people. Don't get me wrong. You're going to still see the bump and runs. You're still going to see the, hey, you need to get out of my way. I got to go. You're going to see some of that. You're going to see some of the attitudes and the ruffled feathers. There's really no other way to put it. You're going to see that. And to me, that's what separates NASCAR from the rest of these motorsports. It's a very good balance of bumping and finesse. It's kind of like it's almost sometimes like a demolition derby with a ballet mixed in. You have to be finessed, but you have to be willing to deal out some bumping and moving people. But you also got to know how to maneuver your car in the right time at the right time to make it work. So, really all I got for this podcast, this episode of our stuff, it was just, I was really excited. When I got the news, I went ahead and, stayed after work for a while to type up some notes for this. Just because I thought it would be a really good topic and I needed to go on today and get it out there. Obviously, I appreciate everybody tuning in and watching who has. Doug, post game, any of the other people that have popped in and out. If you come back and watch another one, jump on, go watch some of the previous ones. Keep an eye, hit the little notification bell. You'll know when I'm going live with it, and we'll get it squared away. Other than that, that's all I got. I'm going to go do some more researching on some stuff and get ready for this wild card game tonight between the who we got tonight, the Steelers and the Texans. Yeah. So interested to see how that one plays out. So y'all all have a good night, and remember to check all the stuff at the bottom. Scrolling, we got WTP sports dudes. We're all down there at the bottom. We got Joe Moss with Level Up Sports 10. Does a lot of conversations. You got Robert. He's like the leader of our group, is what I like to call him, the fearless leader. He's a WTP for life. He's got a bunch of stuff. You got Post Game, who I mentioned with the Post Game 86 podcast. You got Parlay Poe with the Blitzburg podcast. We got City League TV, which is on YouTube and Facebook. I believe they're on both. They do a lot of, local high school stuff here in the Columbus, Ohio market. You got One Take Zaya down there. He rebranded himself. We're going to see what he comes up with. You got me at, SEC Sean. You can find me on there. You can, whatever y'all need to do, jump in next time you see me go live. Hit that like, subscribe, share button, notification bell, and we'll next time I go live, they save your questions. If you got them, jump on, throw them in the chat, and we'll get them answered for you. Y'all have a good night. We'll catch up next time. Peace.